Gentlemen, welcome to Tuesday at Two Lines. How's everybody doing tonight? Hopefully you are doing well. Hopefully you are hanging out at your slot car track and getting some laps in. I see there's been plenty of chat. You guys have been pre-gaming. Let me mute. There we go. Not sure what just happened. Anyway, so welcome to Tuesday at Two Lines. Gosh, we got a bunch of people in the chat. Jamie says he's early. Dave is here until he goes to bed, which should be soon. Patrick, Curvy Road, Dan, Greg, like I said, Jamie, Chris, The Fingers, Patrick Harper, John Tucci, Danny, and Dan. We got the father-son duo. And I'm sure a handful of more people, but we're going to jump right in. Who else do we have? DNA is here. Welcome, DNA. Ex-Head Rasta is here. How's it going, man? We're getting close to racing at Cincy Slots, so I hope you're ready. It's been a while since we talked. Good to have you, man. Good to have you. We'll be racing actually this weekend in Cincinnati. So Steve Sweeney is here. Brian, welcome. Bo is here. Gary Dunmore is here. Gail Force is here. We got a lot of people in the house. Guys, I'm going to jump right in. Going racing this weekend. My brother, Dusty, and John Mark and I, we are going racing at the Herman P. Finkelmeyer Memorial Track, which is our friend Butch's, and he has an amazing wood track. Sean Casey is in. Johnny Pro is in. Yes, I'm ready. Got your cars tuned? That's what we're going to talk a little bit about tonight. So, yeah, guys, thanks. Hey, Rob, welcome. So thanks for being here, guys. I really appreciate that you would spend your Tuesday evenings with me. Last night, so my schedule's kind of changed, and I want to throw an apology out to Raul. I don't know if he'll be on tonight or not, and George and Shotgun Dave, and I'm leading a life group at my church, and normally I would do it on a Sunday night, but the church building is super busy on Sundays. We have a large youth group, and so they moved it to Monday, and so now that life group meets on Mondays, and it interferes with Raul's podcast or his live stream. And I just want to put an apology out there. For the next 7 or 8 weeks, I'll be leading this group, which is great. I enjoy doing that. I've been doing that for years. But I'm really going to miss jumping on the live stream on Monday nights. It's supposed to end somewhere around 8 p.m., just shy of 8 p.m. It went late last night because it was the first time we met, and so I didn't even get to make it to the live stream. So I just really felt bad. So guys, I apologize. I missed you last night on the live stream. I got to listen to it. It sounded like it was great today on my lunch hour. So anyway, I just wanted to put that out. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Hey, Jeff G. Good to have you. So back to what we were talking about, or what I was talking about. We are going to Butch's Wood Track, and you know what? I don't know if I have a picture available of Butch's Wood Track right off the top. I don't. Or I'd bring that up so you could see it. It's a great track. It's a 6-lane wood track that Butch built by hand. It's beautiful. Steve, hopefully we'll see you this weekend. You got all your cars tuned up. That's what I'm going to talk a little bit about tonight. So welcome. Thanks. So I posted a video on Saturday talking about the two classes. We're going to be running a GT class and a vintage class. And we all know that the vintage cars are my favorite. I have quite a selection. There were actually even a few. I think I actually missed two that I didn't mention in my video. And it was my 908 NSR and my slotted GT40. Both of those cars actually perform really well. But I think the wheelbase at Butch's track is probably a little too short. And the GT40 was a car that I threw out as a possibility. The NSR Pink Pig 917 is a possibility. And those two cars are very, very similar. The wheelbase is almost exactly the same. Actually, the GT40 is just maybe a millimeter longer. And then I've got the P68 NSR. And we know that the Elva is outlawed mainly because he just wants other cars. Because if you're allowed to run your Elva, then everybody will run their Elvas because the Elvas are really, really great. Daryl just sent me a picture of the track. Daryl, did you send that in Facebook? Let me see if I can track it down. It's a fantastic track. It really is. Yep, there it is. So let me see if I can bring this up. And let's see. Scene selection, web browser. There you go. So there is Butch's track. Grand Santa Man, welcome. DNA, you see a lot of cars there. Oh, in the background shot. Yeah, not all of them are mine. Some of them are my brother Dusty's, and some of them are John Mark's. But my collection is growing. I'm afraid to count, honestly. So I don't know exactly, DNA, how many I have. Thanks to Fingers, I'm kind of picky on what I choose to buy, and I've been sent some great cars from some great people. But back to the P68. The P68, I talk about it's set up for the wood track, and then I got a lot of comments that people thought that the blue chassis is the soft chassis from NSR. Oh, wait, let me finish talking about the track. So here's the track. You're seeing the track right now. It is what they call this, a hill climb style track. 6 lanes. It's really fast. Has great flow, and we always talk about the flow of the track. But Butch did a really good job. But that inside stretch underneath, there's a little hitch. You can see it towards that turn, and that hitch will get you. John Albright is in the house. Don't count. Yeah, I know. I'm going to stay away from counting. I appreciate that advice. Yeah, pretty cool. It's a great track. So that's where we're headed on Saturday. So Daryl sent me a picture. Yes. So thanks, Daryl. Appreciate you sending that picture out so I could share it real quick online. But going back to this car, I took it apart. There was a lot of weight forward, and I decided that I was going to wait until I got to the track to do any kind of tuning. Daryl had tuned this car up for the wood track. He put the soft chassis on it, and I had a lot of comments, people saying, shouldn't that be the hard chassis? I think you want the hard chassis for the track. But Butch, the guy who owns the track and races on it every day, he tends to like the soft chassis on that track. So I'm curious to know, this weekend I will ask him about that, because it just seems counterintuitive. I would think that super smooth track, you would want that harder chassis. So let me know in the comments if my thinking is wrong. But I had a lot of people say, hey, I think you're going the wrong direction on the chassis. So I'm excited to see how this will run. It's got a little taller gear. I can see it. And it should perform pretty well on the track. So this is probably going to be my backup car. And if you watched my video, you know that I was trying to choose from a handful of cars. Just to give you some stats and some things that I did. I did work on the shadow a bit. The shadow, if we go back to the video, the shadow was very consistent around the 8.3 mark. If I'm not mistaken. Let me see if I have the actual pictures of that in the video. But the shadow ran, when I showed the board, it finished up and was a little quicker than I expected it to be. So it was 8248, 8350, 8361, 8367, 8476, 850. So 8.5 seconds, 8.2 is its fastest, and that was with the stock motor. No, but my tuning, the tuning I've done is, I've got some movement with the body. I've got the pod, got some movement in the motor pod, stock motor, some tape across the chassis just to quiet it down, because the shadow did make some noise. The chassis chattered a little bit, so I threw a little bit of tape on it when I tuned it up. And then it's weighing in about, on a slot R, you'll want to know when you tune your shadow. Oh, wait, you don't have a shadow. So it's weighing in at 76 grams. 76 grams. So the weight seemed right. It is really in the slot. So I did some experimenting. I took my 25K motor out of my Elva, my pride and joy, and I threw it in the shadow and ran some laps. So let me pull that up. So I ran some laps with the shadow, and I'll give you some comparison. Hey, Tad, welcome. Good to have you. Thanks for joining tonight. Yeah, Dusty, he was going to come do some laps tonight, and he's fighting a headache, so I imagine he won't stick around too long. Yeah, so hang in there, bud. We need you well for Saturday. So adding the 25K motor to the shadow, I went from running 8.2 as the fastest to 7.7510. So I didn't get as much improvement adding the 25K motor as I thought that I would. And I think it has to do with the ride height. So the shadow, the ride height's not bad, but the one thing on my plastic track with the 25K motor, it does have some mag effect, and the car just never gets down close enough to really have an impact like it does with the Elva. The Elva chassis that I pulled it out of, I mean, it's on the ground, but it really seems to get close to the track, and the mag effect is exaggerated. on the Elva. And then if you want to see there's my tuning on the Elva. Got some lead right in the front of the motor pod, and then a touch flanking the kind of tucked underneath the axles. And that seems to be a great place to put the weight. It performs really well there. That Elva. So the Elva with the 25K runs 6.9. So it is 3/4 of a second faster than the Shadow with the 25 with the same motor. So I thought, well, I'll move on from the Shadow. I know that I can put that 25K motor in the M6A and run very similar laps. And maybe we'll do that tonight before this is over. So then I thought, well, I wonder if I put it in the 917, would I get any better results? And so I started tuning up the 917. It still needs some work. And again, this is a special edition. I really am afraid to do too much to it. So then I thought, well, let's tune up the GT40. This was from my friend John Bacon. He sent it to the channel. And I trued up the tires, the front tires, got the nose down pretty low. Really happy with how it sits on the track. It's low. And I threw the car on the track after I trued the fronts, went over the tuning, put the 25K motor in it, and I ran 7.6s. So it's still about a half a second off what I consistently run with the Elva. Now we know the Elva is not legal this weekend. So I think that I'm going to just to be fast, I'm going to have to run the 25K motor in the M6A. But last night, I placed an order with Slot Car Corner, and I ordered a couple of the new 25K ball bearing motors from Predator. And it looks like they will get here probably Friday. I'm hoping that they make it Thursday, which would give me an extra day to get them in a car and do a little bit of testing. So it looks like P2 is going to be the P68. I know that it's set up to run on the wood track, and I think my number one is going to be the M6A, because I just really think that it's my fastest car that I have with that 25K motor. Now, I do want to try these new 25K ball bearing motors and see how they run. Hey, Tom Work, welcome. Good to have you. Tom and I have had a conversation going this past week. He's wanting to create an event in Georgia, southern Georgia, right? There's some tracks down there, and he wanted to talk to me about doing an event. And I think it would be fun. I saw some pictures and video from the tracks. It's pretty amazing. They have 4 tracks. They're building and completing a large Daytona, tri-oval Daytona with the infield road course that's switchable, which is pretty cool. So, Tom, we definitely have to have a conversation. I'll give you a call sometime this week. I'll reach out and see when you have time, but I definitely want to continue that conversation. Let's see. I apologize. I'm not paying a whole lot of attention to Chris says go with with a tire that is a lower profile for the Shadow. I've got a set of super tires And like it's down on the track. I mean, it's pretty low. So the tires, I think, are okay. It just didn't run the lap times that obviously it could be me driving, but it just didn't make the times that the Thunder slots make. I'm just in the NSRs. They're just a touch faster. I saw a question. Curvy Road had a question. Do they have an RPM limit at the track? Curvy, they don't per se. I don't think too many guys run anything more than there might be a few that run a 30K motor. I feel like the 30K motor, that's kind of what we ran for that endurance race. And that motor was so hot. Like I really struggled to drive it on that track because it was so stinking fast. So I think that the 22.5s and the 25Ks, listen, I'm not going in thinking that I even have a shot at coming close to like a top 5 at this place. Somebody's got to finish last, and it will probably be me. So going into it, I want a car that I can control. I want a car that's quick enough, but I want to stay in the slot as much as possible. And so if I tone the motor down just a little bit and run 25K instead of a 30K, I think we'll be fine. But Daryl, you might be able to answer that. Will many people be running that hot of a motor? I think a lot of the guys end up in that 22.5 to 25K range. But the rules are pretty open. You can kind of do what you want. But some motors are a little too much. So Kirby, thanks for the question. Sean Casey, Marty, you are not going to win. Your focus needs to be to not get out of the slot. Sean, exactly. Perfect comment. You're right. I'm not going to win this race. Just get that out of my head now. The problem is when you get with a group of guys and they're fast, you want to try to keep up, right? And so that's when you don't race your race. That's when the problem happens, right? You find yourself out of the slot. So, Sean, thanks for the reminder. I really appreciate that. Hey, Daniel Thomas, glad to have you, man. There you go, Daryl. No motor limit. Bo, well said. Sean, yep, I agree. I got to race my own race. John Albright is always telling me that. Take them all. Arrive when the gates open and test. You never know. Again, I will take them all, John. I know that I'm testing these cars on my track. So I've got my USB powered soldering iron for quick solders to like change out the motors. This thing's great. John Mark picked this up off of Amazon. Kind of keep it on the tech bench for repairs and things like that. Works great. So I'll be able to move the motor around from car to car. So, but I think that I do feel like my top two choices are these two. They're both a yellow, so I appreciate that about them. Number 3 is the GT40, the NSR. It handles great. It stays in the slot. And car number 4 is probably the Shadow. So, but they'll all be in the box. I got a big ass pit box. I can fit 35 or 40 cars in that stupid thing. So yeah, we'll be all right. I'll have them all with me. I'll probably even have my slotted GT40 and my NSR 908. Again, because you just never know. Now, I was taking some cues, and you guys tell me if I'm wrong. John Mark bought the NSR GT40 Special Edition from Electric Dreams. And for those of you who know he spent a pretty good penny on this thing. But the one thing that it did come is it came tuned, ready for the track. And so I've been taking some cues off of this NSR and some of my tuning, just because I know that it's set up for a wood track. Now, it's not Butch's track, but it is a wood track. And so on the ground, I feel like my GT40 is really, really close. When I look at how the guide is set up and the front end is set up, man, the front tires are way up off the ground, which reminded me that I should probably use the side that's made for a wood track. And so when I drop that down onto the wood track, those tires are just barely touching. And so I have a feeling that this is probably where I want the front end set up. Because this was tuned to perform really well on the wood track. And so when I take this car and put it on the setup block, I need you guys to tell me if I'm wrong. It actually is pretty close. So I feel like the only issue is the guide doesn't go all the way down. So it is resting on the front tires. Well, no. It's actually resting on the chassis. So I feel like I should probably maybe put some guide spacers on and push that guide down slightly until the nose is where it needs to be, and then readjust the front tires so that it matches that GT40 that came tuned from Electric Dreams. So that's where I'm headed with that. I'm going to do some of that tuning tonight, just to try to get this car prepped and ready to go. But I can tell you that when I make those tuning changes here, it's not going to run as good on my track. So that's the dilemma, which is why maybe some of the tuning needs to happen while I'm at the track. So what are your thoughts? What do you guys think? Let me see if there's any other questions in. Well, my 46K is out. My Elva that is outlawed there is a 28K NSR motor. That's good to know, Daryl. But it's outlawed. I mean, all the Elvas are outlawed, so it's not just yours. Peter has a question. Are these new ball bearing motors supposed to have an advantage? Peter, so let me see. I have a couple of them. So in this car right now, I have the 22.5 version of that motor, the Predator ball bearing motor. What I love about that motor is it has a very controllable power band, and the motor is super smooth. It's fast. For a 22.5 motor, it gets around this track really, really well. The 25K is supposed to be that same motor, just higher RPM rating at 12 volts. So I think that it has a smooth, controllable power band. That's one of the things that when I compare the NSR motors, the NSR motors have just like a really quick power band. It's not as smooth. It's like, bam, all your power's there. And I feel like the ball bearing motor is just a little touch smoother. The one thing about the ball bearing motors is they don't have quite as much brake. And that's what you run into. And the 25K motor has got some pretty good mag effect. And the 22.5 ball bearing motors don't have a lot of magnet effect. So when I compare that to, say, this NSR, which John Mark will be running on the GT class, getting it set up. It's got an issue with the front end, so I'm really going to need to tear this car apart. The 25K Shark motor doesn't have a lot of mag effect either. Now, we know that Butch's Wood Track, it does not have magnetic braid, so mag effect really doesn't help much. John, Eurosport motor, 75K. Whew. I don't think I could handle that. What's the power at the wooden track? Johnny Pro, that's actually a good question. Daryl, do you know what he runs the track at? Does he run it at 14 volts? Does he run it at 12 volts? 12 and a half? It's somewhere around there. The car of choice on that track is the NSR Mosler. There are a lot of Moslers that run on that track. So that's a good question, Johnny. Maybe Daryl knows, because Daryl usually doesn't race. He usually track marshals, like directs the race and runs the computer. So take notes for the advice they share with you, Marty. Yeah, definitely. I always ask lots of questions, and the guys at the track are all super helpful. Butch even offered to let me race one of his cars. So I may try one of his cars just to see how it drives. I've raced one of his Moslers before, and it drove really well. It was a great car. Let's see. Maybe they are smoother running. Yeah, Pat, I think that the ball bearing motors are smooth, and they tend to have just a smoother power band. I feel like they're just a little more controllable, but they have a little less brake. Steve, you are correct. I appreciate your positivity and your enthusiasm, brother. But you and I both know you've seen me race. If I can stay in the slot, I do okay. But most of the time, I get too racy and I end up out of the slot. Or I'm bumping you out of your slot. Reese, Marty, it took me a long time to just race consistently. Reese, yeah, it does. It's just going to take practice. And that's why we're going to this race on Saturday. One, we want to see our friends Daryl and Steve and Bernie and Pat. And I was hoping Jamie was going to be there, but Jamie had a family thing come up, so he's not going to be able to go. Josh, our buddy Josh, that has been on the live stream a couple times. It's just good to go down and get to see those guys and race and have fun. James might be there. I don't know who all is going to be there, but I don't know. I would say we have between 10 and 15 guys show up for this race. I guess there could be more, but that's kind of what I'm guessing. Let's see what else Hey Shane, welcome from Australia. But you have to start a race to win. So step one is get to the start. Yeah, you're right. Again, I love the positive. And I'm not being negative. Like I know myself well enough to know that, there's some really fast guys there. If I can get a car tuned and get some practice laps in, that's going to be the key for me, is getting some practice in all of the lanes. Because there's a big difference between lane 1 and lane 6 and everywhere in between. And so it's just managing that race, managing your laps, staying in. Yeah, maybe you go a little slower, but that'll be my goal. So Steve, we'll do our best. I will give it I'm competitive enough that I'll give it a shot. So, you definitely don't make time when you're out of the slot. So, which is why Dusty and I were talking earlier. I said, hey man, I picked you up a 25K motor if you want to throw it in his M6B. He has the blue M6B Thunder slot. And he's like, no, I don't want to change anything because it's really fast. But my fear is we may need to adjust the guide and that front end on his car when we get there, just to make sure that it's fast and stays in the slot. Because I think if you don't get the front end where it needs to be, then it could be a long, long day for you. If you're smiling, you've already won. Well, you've raced with me. You know how I am with the track. I don't take myself too seriously. Frankie Tomatoes, might surprise yourself. You will keep making quicker laps as the day progresses. It just happens from start to finish. And Frankie, that's all I want to do. I just want to get better. I want to improve. The difference between the last time and this time is I have my own controller, and so setting that up and being ready, that's going to be cool. Gary, I won't give up on myself. I do have confidence. My wife says that I don't lack for confidence. But yeah, you guys saw the video of the endurance race. The endurance race was hard. Racing in the dark was difficult, but we'll give it a shot. Tell me about the USB soldering iron, where to get it. Gladstone. So it charges USB, and then it's, it basically, you hold the button and it lights up, and it only lights up for about 10 seconds. And so as soon as it starts flashing, I let out and I press the button again. And in about 15 seconds, that tip is hot enough to solder just about anything. But it's really only made for like small electrical things. Yeah, it's warm. So like motor leads on motors, little soldering jobs like that. Anything bigger than that, I go to my main soldering iron, because this immediately shuts off to save battery. But very handy to keep in your toolbox. Super. Let's see here. I have plenty of loaner cars with 25 and 28K motors in them, Marty. Well, Daryl, if I can't get one of my cars to run, might have to do that. Daryl, you should be racing, though. Yes, sir. Wood track set up on the GT40. Yeah, I guess I'm further behind. Yeah, John. I've kind of been taking some cues. I kind of forgot that we had that car sitting there until last night, and I was like, why have I not looked at that and examined that car? Because it was supposed to be a professional tuning, and I don't mean this like air quotes in a bad way. I think that the guy they dedicated the Polycar track to is the one who built all these cars. And so I'm like, guy probably knows how to build a car. So I thought, yeah, I'll tear that apart. And I did notice that it does have the hard chassis, not the soft chassis. So I found that interesting. And it looks like it has a 25K motor in it as well. And is that magnet? No. And then the weight is a tungsten dot that slips right in. So that's I do notice that they've put in the motor pod the NSR shanked screws for the motor pod, and the motor pod has a lot of movement. So my question is that how everybody likes their NSRs? Because that motor pod moves front to back really, really well. And when I pick up my NSRs, my motor pod does not move that well. So is that something I should work on? Let me know in the comments. What else? Daryl, Butch's groove isn't that deep. See, I didn't think it was either. Not as deep as this. So is this block made for Butch's track, Daryl? That's my question. Because if it is, Yeah, that setup is still, it's not bad. That guide is just not very deep in the slot, which makes me wonder. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with the GT40. That's not bad. That's not bad at all. It could go a little deeper. So let me know, Daryl, in the comments. Should I be using this setup block since I believe Butch made these? I think maybe. So yeah, I think the rules say chassis height at Butch's. Jamie, I think you're right. There is. I think I'm not having any problems with that chassis height. I'll have to get my feeler gauge out just to check, but I think I'm in good shape. None of my cars are on the chassis. Yeah, anyway. Let's see. Who else? I appreciate that. Yeah, don't be afraid. Hey, Nick V. Welcome. Good to have you. Chris, you're right. I saw that one of the companies makes a ride height guide. So I need to pick one up. Let's see. Yeah. Scott Marble, welcome. Yeah, Pat, I can go early. The track is going to open at 9. Racing starts at noon. So our plan is to be there as close to 9 as possible. Probably get there about 9:30. John, yes, I have this block with the recessed, and then I have this block, which I believe was made by Butch, who owns the track, and its slot is definitely not as deep as the slot. Well, I say that until I line them up. Yeah, it's well, it's close. It's just a hair. It's just a hair, not as deep as that. So, yeah, I think that'll get me close, John. Nick V, guys, I love the classic cars. We have a race coming up this weekend in South Oz with them. Nick, that's cool. We have one on Saturday too. That's why I'm talking about them. I'm trying to decide which ones I need to get finished tuned and run some laps. Hey, Moondoggy, welcome. I can't speak for lack of knowledge. I'm in a process of tuning my first slot car. It's been interesting to say the least. Daniel, so yeah, don't be afraid to tune. And my first car that I ever tuned was this car, the slotted GT40. And holy cow, I just look at this thing, I'm embarrassed. It is just beat all to heck. But I did a video about tuning it the first time, and I basically said this car sucks. And not that it was the car, it was my tuning. I didn't know enough to know what I needed to know to tune this car. So I went back to the drawing board. Was really struggling to keep it in the slot and get around the track. And then I did a follow-up video the next week where I basically crushed my track record with this thing because I started learning a little bit. I read some things. I watched a few YouTube videos. I watched some just basic tuning, not for this car, but for other cars. And I was like, the light bulb kicked on. So it's okay. The tuning is not easy, and it's not for everyone. There are a lot of guys that love to race slot cars that do not like to tune their cars. Our buddy John Mark is one of them. He's a mechanic. He works on cars all day long. The last thing he wants to do is work on and tune his own slot cars. But he's slowly getting there because he understands the importance of having the knowledge, the working knowledge of what it takes to tune a car. And when a car's not doing something right, what does it take to fix it? And so that's what we're trying. That's what we're trying to learn. So, Chris, did you order some of the ball bearing motors? I will definitely do a video about the 25K motor. I saw where Jim Rose is putting in his Thunder slot to race this weekend in a video that he posted today. I saw it on my lunch hour. And so I'm sure that we'll have a video coming from him. I'll be interesting to see how these motors perform. Daryl has a couple of them. He's telling me that he is liking those motors so far, but he doesn't have a test track, so he's just going by sound. But he seems to think that they're pretty smooth and will be a nice motor. And they have a little more mag effect than the 22.5 motor does. So, Tad, do I have any rally cars? I do not have any rally cars. Yeah. No, that's not really a rally car. Yes, the answer is no. No on the rally cars. Not that I don't like rally cars. We have a actual forest rally here in Chillicothe, my hometown, every June. That gets like Travis Pastrana and some high profile drivers show up. Ken Block used to come, and he was always one of the favorites. And so I do like rally. I just don't have any rally cars. Yeah, no problem, Peter. Marty, most commercial tracks I notice in my area race 124 only, and some are starting to check out 132 because of the following it has. So, Tom, that is a great comment, and we'll talk about this on the phone when we get a chance to talk on the phone. Sorry, my work schedule has been crazy. My life after work has been crazy. I was at a retreat all weekend and playing some music, and anyway, I apologize that we didn't get a chance to catch up. But I think one of the things that you're seeing is a movement to 132nd because cars look like real cars, 132nd scale. Not that they can't at 124 scale, but these commercial tracks, they run a lot of the flexi chassis and the Womps and some of those big wing cars, and they don't really look like real cars. They kind of resemble cars, but they're super, super fast. And I think that, a lot of the slot car racers are aging. I'm in my 50s, and I'm late to the game to slot cars, right? And like reflexes and vision aren't what they used to be, right? And so maybe racing some of those super high speed cars are getting tougher. And I think guys are enjoying the cars that are being produced by these slot car companies out the 132nd scale. I still think scratch building, the 124, 125th scale is probably still super popular. We know George and Harry and Shotgun Dave and those guys all make amazing cars at that scale. But I really do sense that the 132nd scale, somebody had a poll on YouTube, and I apologize. I know it's somebody that's probably in the chat. It was either DNA or De Leon. It was either Rob or Dehi that put the poll up that asked, no, maybe Tom, it was you, what scale, and 132nd was clearly the most popular. So I think that it's, 11 volts at Butch's, really? That is, man, those cars fly at 11 volts. That's really interesting. Okay. Brakes via gear ratio with the ball bearing motors. Yeah, I think that if you need more brake, you probably have to mess with the gearing. That's a great comment, John. Peter, smoother is nice. Peter, there are a couple things that I like in my cars. I talk about it all the time. I do not care for noisy slot cars. If they rattle and are loud and make a lot of noise, like Carrera cars, they're just loud on the track. I don't mind it, but give me a Thunder slotted NSR, a slotted MR slot car, all of those brands, Scale Auto, the new Scale Auto that I have sitting here, the white kit, that car is super smooth and quiet. I love love a super smooth car, and those ball bearing motors make it really easy to build a super smooth car. The voltage was my next question. Would run the cars at the voltage on your track to get the feel? Marty Ford, bumper or hip checking out of the lane? Chris, with Steve, we tend to find ourselves next to each other in a curve, in a turn, and it's usually hip checking. So I'm a hockey player, so hip checking is something I'm used to. We have some fun races. Curvy Road, coffee. Nice. Yes. Don't forget about Rost coffee. I'll plug him in a minute. Every time you go to the track and you lose, you come away with ideas for next time. Yeah. You'll learn how to get better. And I like to watch what other people are doing. And I like to ask questions. So I'm not afraid. Grits Racing Club. What tires are you all running on the wood track? So Grits, it is a track set up for silicone. I think Butch likes a clean track. And so it seems like we're always running silicone tires. So I think that's the tire of preference this weekend. Because they're on his track, there's no rubber buildup. And he keeps a pretty clean track with the type of paint that he's applied. So silicones. Gary, you run at 18 volts. Gary, I don't know that I could keep a 132nd car on my track at 18 volts. Yep, keep it fun. Speak of controllers, does anyone have any suggestions for the larger alligator clips for a slotted SCP2? Mine came with bare ends. So let's see. You can Slot Car Corner has a set. It's like $6, but it comes with the boots and the clips, and you can solder those ends on the alligator clips. But I was thinking that the SCP2 came with alligator clips, not alligator, banana. So maybe that just was the bare ends. So if that's the case, if you go to Harbor Freight, they have a big pack of alligator clips with a bunch of different sizes. The only problem is it doesn't have boots, and that's what Dusty's SCP2 has on it. So you might try that. Too slow for butches. That's why I race direct. Yeah, Jeff G., I agree. I'm excited about using my controller. I think the traction control will be a big help coming into that big turn, coming out of that big turn into that 180 off the backstretch. So I think that I'm excited about trying that. Dennis Sampson legend. John, thanks. I could not remember his name. And I think Dennis, he tuned a lot of those cars. So I'm guessing he does a lot of racing on that Electric Dreams track. He has got some very fascinating scratch build 132nd scale cars that have some great chassis that I would love to see pictures of, because it would be fun to recreate some of those for some of the car ideas that I have. Smooth shank screws for the body and the pod NSR wood track tune. Yeah, I think that I have some of those, and so I think I might change to those. But I don't get the movement front to back with my NSR motor pods, and this car has a lot of front to back, so I can see that I'm late on these. It isn't that deep, Marty. Okay, thanks. Professor Motor sells a set of alligator clips with color-coded covers very reasonably. Mark, thanks. I couldn't remember if I got it from Professor Motor or Slot Car Corner, so maybe it was Professor Motor. Hey, Richard, welcome. Hey, Mark, thanks for jumping in. I appreciate that. Staffs do one, I think. Thanks for the info. Check it out. Great. Let's see. Marty, I use my guitar setup tool to check my height strings. That's actually a good idea. I probably do have a guitar tuning tool for my string height that probably would work well with the slot cars. Great advice, Jeff. I didn't even think about that. But Gary, how much practice time do you all get? So we get about 3 hours of practice before the race starts at noon. Got 225K and 122.5 to see how they both perform. Chris, is that your first 22.5 motor? You'll like those motors. They do a nice job. Very controllable, but they are quick. Like the cars that I have them in, I can run under 8 seconds with this car. It runs 7.9s with the 22.5 motor and runs about 8.1 with the stock motor. So it's about 0.2 faster than a stock Thunderslot motor. I think the Thunderslot motors are a little underrated RPM wise, because I think they're rated at 21, maybe 21.5, but I feel like they're a little quicker than that. So, DeFingers, you're right. I have one. It was because it was covered up. Dang it. I do have a rally car. I have a 4-wheel drive rally car, the Subaru. DeFingers, thanks for reminding me. I actually had this on the track last week, the week before. And I'd been running it, and it's only rated for 12 volts. I didn't realize that until I flipped it over, and it says 12 volts. The tires, I'm having problems finding like silicone tires for it. So it doesn't hook up great. And those tires are really hard. So I think I'm going to try to do like George's and John Albright's tire treatment on them and see how they perform. DeFingers, thanks for reminding me. I appreciate that. Is Trans Am race would be sweet. I noticed that the Electric Dreams last week raced Trans Am. I have not watched the playback, but I did. Hey, Caveman. Never late. I was born late, so I'm late to just about everything. I don't like being late, but I have too much in my schedule, so don't you worry about it. Welcome. Out of 60, so Rob, it was you that had the poll. Out of 60 responses, 132nd scale was the most popular. Yeah. Hey, Monty, welcome. Wild Man is in the house. Hey, Wild Man. Good to have you, bro. Good to have you. I'm going to move forward. I'm going to make sure I don't miss any questions. I have 400 HO cars and about 200 feet of track, all HO types, and I love the versatility and handling of 132nd scale. Add digital, no contest. Yeah, Caveman, that's pretty cool. I have not played with HO in years, but man, there's some really cool HO tracks, like the wood routed stuff that are like the 4-lane, 6-lane stuff are wild. And man, some of those cars are stinking fast. But I really do like 132nd scale. Marty received my new plug-in controller for my Polycar track. What a difference in the cars from the stock cheap ones. The controller really does have an impact on your ability to drive a car. I love my DeFalco, and I actually love the slotted SCP2 Dusties. I've really figured out how to drive with that thing, and so I feel like I'm about as fast on one controller as I am the other, just in case I need to. Hey, John Mark, good to have you. 54 watching, 10 likes. Thanks. I made a poll of your favorite slot car scale out of 60 responses, 10% HO, 2% 143rd, 63% 132nd. Nice. 23, 2% other. So I think that 143rd would really have a great chance if there was a better selection of cars. I think that that's what hurts it, is there's just 132nd scale has a crap ton of cars. So one of the videos that I'm working on is Rob. I apologize, but it really is a response to you. Our slot cars back in Electric Dreams, which is their tagline. And I'm doing some research to prove that slot cars are back. And I think it has to do with the number of cars that are being released right now in 132nd scale is pure proof of the fact that slot cars are back. And I'm trying to find the number of total cars from the main companies: Carrera, Skelectrics, NSR, Slotted, Thunderslot, SCX, SRC, like just what was the total number of different cars, liveries included. So if they released one car in 3 liveries like Revo Slot, that would be 3 different cars because they went through the effort to create different liveries. In 2023, how many cars are getting released new this year, different cars, compared to 2015, 2016, 2017, 2018? I'm struggling to find those numbers. I thought I might be able to find catalogs that companies have released. So if anybody has some old catalogs from like Carrera or Skelectrics, or because I'm having problems finding, I'm finding like links to them in Google, and then when I go to them, they're gone. But I'm just trying to get a roundabout number, because I think that just in pure number of cars being released, we can prove that slot cars are back. And so that's one of the videos that I'm working on. So sorry, that was a lot. Can you tell I get passionate about stuff, right? Is that all right? It's your pink elephant, Marty. My pink elephant. Yes. This thing makes a little bit of noise to fingers going around the track, too. It's a little noisy. Daniel, what size wheels are on the Subaru? I can measure them. I thought I found some, and then when they got here, they didn't fit. Where's my? I was looking for my calipers. So they're really narrow. They're 9.41 millimeters. Yeah. 9.4 millimeters wide, and let's see, they are 23.25 millimeters tall. So they're kind of they're very skinny but tall tire. Yeah. Anyway, we'll find them one day. And I could always do a Shotgun Dave and pour my own silicone tires, make a mold off of these, and create my own. And that might be what needs to happen. All right. Eli, welcome to Two Lines on Tuesday. Eli, I hope that you get a chance to run some slot cars with Wild Man, and that you get to enjoy this hobby. It's so much fun. And if I had this when I was 10 years old, holy cow, I'd probably never left my basement ever. I'd probably still be down there. So, yeah, that's awesome. So thanks, Eli. Thanks for checking it out. Thanks for being here tonight. Thanks for hanging with us. Let's see. I want a new old school electric track with 2 transformers and cars and controllers, $124 delivered, still in plastic. Nice. Good score, Steve. Andrea, hi everyone. I am a beginner, got a digital Carrera set on Craigslist and was wondering, are borders recommended on 132nd turns if I'm running magnets? So Andrea, this is a great question. And my answer is going to be like 2 parts. Set that track up and run it, and don't worry about borders. If you're running magnets, don't worry about borders. But part 2 to that is, part 1 still, don't worry about borders, but make sure that you have some type of guardrail up. Whether it's the snap-on guardrail that comes with the Carrera track, which is good, but it'll take a beating for a little while, then it starts getting brittle and breaks. I took poster board, cut it down into like 2.5-inch strips, and then made my own borders using binder clips on the Carrera track. It works great and holds up really well. You can print off stickers and dress them up to look like, fencing at a racetrack. You can do a lot of things. So that's what I would start with. And then as you progress, and maybe you start running less digital, and maybe you try some analog racing on the track, or even digital, and you start pulling magnets out because you want the challenge of no magnet racing, that's when I really think you'll want to have borders on those turns. And the reason being is a no mag car will drift a little more than a magnet car, and it just gives you the room instead of coming out of the slot or slamming up against the guardrails. So that's the transition. So part 1, set that track up, go have fun, put some guardrails up, don't worry about borders. And then as you progress and get down the road and build your layout and you figure out what you want, then move to borders. But save your money now, buy a few cars, buy a nice controller. Some of those things I think are probably the first things that I would do. Getting a really nice True Speed or Ramjet digital controller for Carrera track, and move past the plungers. Unless you go with wireless, and the wireless Carrera plunger style are nice because wireless is very handy. But there are other companies that make some wireless trigger style. And so that's what I would spend my money on first before I would spend it on borders, because borders, depending on how big your layout is, they can get expensive. I hope that answers your question. But welcome to the channel. Thanks for hanging out. I appreciate that. Thanks for your question. Let's see. What else do we have? 3 a.m. over here now. I need to be... Bo. Yes, I can't believe you're still up. Bo, I have a friend that lives in Kondern, Germany. He and his family, they've been there for, 10 or 11 years. And I've gone over to visit 3 times. And beautiful country. But yeah, the 6-hour time difference, that'll catch up with you real quick. So, good night. Slot cars in the last 3 years have outsold any other hobby segment. Tom, that's cool. I would love to see where where those stats came from, just because I'm doing research and I like to read that stuff. And kind of for this video, I just came for the coffee, but I hear you on noisy cars. My Carrera Aston Martin is loud. Bryce, it's so funny. My favorite Carrera car is probably my loudest car, and that is my Porsche 917K. My wife, she can hear it upstairs on our second floor when I'm running the Porsche around the track. And then I can run a Thunder slot, and she'll go, "Where were you at?" I'm like, "I've been racing cars for the last 2 hours." And she's like, "I didn't hear you down there." But she can hear that Porsche everywhere in the house. So that's funny. Chris, you still like your HO? Yeah, there's nothing wrong with it. Okay, so putting both borders and guardrails on my shopping list then. Thanks. Yeah, I mean, again, I would guardrails first, borders second. some of those things there are a handful of things that I would probably buy before you spend the money on boarders, because boarders can get pretty expensive really fast, especially if they have a large layout. My layout is 97 feet of lane length, and I have borders for everything. So I dropped, I don't know, $500 or $600 on borders. So that's kind of scary. And I say my brother bought some borders. John Mark bought some borders. We're all invested in this layout. But you can't go wrong. You would be happy with the borders. But you might spend $100 of those dollars on a nice controller for yourself. So there you go. Cat shows up at the open back door, 3 dogs off like rockets. Welcome back, John. You didn't miss anything. It's a typical night where Marty's all over the place. Another question for you guys. Are GT3 and DTM relatively similar for house races, or one class outperforms the other? Okay, so you're talking about Carrera cars. I honestly believe the GT cars are a little faster than the DTM cars at 1/32 scale. Just a touch. But at 1/24 scale, the DTMs are dogs compared to the GT cars. We can't keep up. My DTM cars cannot keep up with the GT cars in 1/24 scale. I have 5 Carrera Aston Martins, and they all are different sounding. That's funny, Kirby. It's funny how each car is different, right? Daniel Thomas, it's a beautiful car. Thanks. By the way, I really want to thank you guys for answering these questions. It's very hard to find answers online. Andrea, actually, there are lots of places to find answers. But that's why we built this community on Tuesday nights. The chat is a great place to throw questions out, because you get a lot of opinions and a lot of answers. But I will tell you that they're all very consistent. Guys are giving great advice in this live chat. They all share very well and really are intentional about helping people and helping people enjoy the hobby. And that's why I started this channel. I wanted to learn, and I knew if I was creating videos and content and having these live streams, that I would learn as much as I was trying to teach people. And every week, we learn more and more and more. Yes, borders, mag or no mag. Grandson of Man, yeah. But you could focus. So, Andrea, try this. Go with outside borders first before you order a bunch of inside borders, because you definitely will use the outside borders more. And you'll find that when you come out of the slot in a corner, the car really does slow down a lot. And if it's got that border to just kind of come out and ride and then into the guardrail instead of launching straight off the track. And so I find that I break fewer cars with borders. Johnny Pro with the catch fence. The catch fence really helps. Yep. Welcome to the hobby. Hey, Mad P. Never late. It's all good. Thanks, Grandson of Man. I appreciate that. Kirby, welcome to the world. Andrea, welcome to the world of slot cars. Vin, we use the crappy tires that come with Skillectric's Carrera, SCX, and Fly cars as guardrails. I've seen a lot of people do that, Vin, where they build tire walls. It looks great for scenery, especially if you're wanting it to look like an old school. But more and more tracks are still, building these walls out of tires because they just can absorb so much energy. So, Greg, a catch fence is a must if you're running magnets. Yes. What you know about magnet cars is you push them a little harder, they run a little faster on your layout, but when they come out of the slot, they come out of the slot. So, yes, catch fences are worth it. We've had quite a few cars bounce off the concrete floor here in the basement, here at Two Lines. Yeah, keep the magnets in the cars till you have borders, unless you're confident driving a car without mags, without destroying. That's good advice. Posted my latest Revo slot on Misfits of all sizes. Nice. I really love the Revo slot stuff. Let's see. Stay with the group, Andrea. We have a great community, always someone to help. Yep. Wild man nailed it. Other than using the RTS guardrails, I've got a vinyl sign from work, and I cut into 2-inch tall, 1,000% better than the stock Carrera guardrails. Yes, Chris, that is 100% true. I don't have any of the Carrera guardrails up on my track anymore because I got tired of snapping them back in. But I have found some nice plastic that I'm going to slowly replace what I have. Gear mesh. So a lot of times with gear mesh, Johnny Pro, a lot of slot cars you really can't adjust the gear mesh a whole lot. And so a lot of times if the gear mesh is close, I use a combination that was recommended to me, some grease with some graphite if it's really, really close, just to smooth things out. And then the other thing you can do is throw it on your power supply and run the gears in using some like valve lapping grease, some buffing compound, like metal polishing compound, and that will improve that gear mesh if it's gear mesh that you can't really adjust. But there are some cars like Revo slots that you have a lot of adjustment when it comes to gear mesh. Some people use the paper, a thin piece of paper in there. I'll be honest with you. I have a few cars where the gear mesh is awesome, and I just by sight and feel try to match that up as best I can, just because I like how those cars run and I like how smooth they are. So there's quite a few. Cleve Tech has a great video on gear mesh, so that I would recommend going out and watching that. My house is in a tiny city house. My lady can hear them all, except for the Slottits and your fly Porsche. My R8 Carrera sounds like a suitcase on wheels going across the fly. Yes. So, Daniel, one of the things that you can do to improve the Carrera cars, here's my R8, which is one of my favorite Carrera cars. When you take the tire off, I'm running silicones. When you take the tire off, hopefully this will show up. You can see there are little divots. And you've probably already heard this a million times, but you can take super glue or epoxy and fill in those divots and then put those wheels on a truer and true them smooth, and you would not believe how much that will improve the sound of a Carrera car. You're not really truing the tires as much as you're truing the wheels, but man, it's a big help, because basically those divots just through the tires create a lot of just road noise. So that's one of the things you can do to improve Carrera wheels. There you go. DNA, say I'm late to the game. DNA was already taking care of it. Answers in the live chat as we speak. It's great. Hey, Castle Rock, welcome. Glad to have you. Good evening. Let's see. What else do we have? Plastic gutter guards make great catch fences. Can hot glue them to your base. Yep, there is a lot of videos out there on catch fences. There's a lot of videos on guardrails. Some really good stuff out there. Dave from Slot R has a great guardrail. If you're into building scenery and you want it to look the part, then you run wood magnets. I'm guessing you have magnetic braid on a wood track. I believe that's what you're. Definitely outside before inside. Yeah, Grand Sentiment. Yep, on the borders. Yep, for sure. Outside borders for effect. Inside borders are aesthetic. Exactly. But dang, they do look good. They do look good when you put those borders, those inside borders on. Magnets are a must when running high bank. Yeah, they are. I would agree with that. My buddy took pool noodles, cut them in half the long way, painted them, and they made awesome borders or guardrails. Yeah, I've seen people do that. Bill Royal, Racetrack Scenics, has a couple of good-looking guardrail options. Yes, Chris Freder, if you look at some of his stuff, he has some of that guardrail. George at Area 51, he just put some of that guardrail together and posted a picture in conjunction with his existing guardrail, and it still looked great. I'd still rock the Revo sweatshirt. Thanks, John. Tom's, I did the same thing with pipe insulation tubing. Yep, being creative. You will find that the slot car community is very creative, especially these guys that build fantastic scenery, man. Some of the stuff that they do. I did a video using plastic, double-sided tape as guardrails. Works 100% better than store-bought. Yeah, Curvy, your video on that is great. That was excellent work. Let's see. What else do we have? Sorry, guys, if I'm missing some of your... love the RTS guardrail. Yep, Chris, it looks good. It looks good on your track too, outside. I want to replace my Carrera wheels and tires. Yeah, grandson of man. The problem is you start. I mean, wheels and tires get expensive, and it's like, how much do you want to spend on, $50, $60 slot car? So you start dropping a bunch of money. Let's see. Hey, I caught up with the chat. Grandson of man, I used Slot Invasion 132nd rear end gear tire wheels. Yeah, Patrick, that's nice. That's a nice kit. I've used that too. I used the Slot Invasion 132nd rear end kit for the DTM on my Ninko because the rear end was such a mess on the Ninko. It still didn't quiet this car down. This car's still so loud. It drives me crazy. But it runs a lot better than it did. And it has to do with bearings and axle and decent gearing. So, no magnetic brake. Okay, thanks, Vin. I thought you might be, but then I thought, well, maybe he's talking about, there are wood tracks that have magnet braid. You can get magnetic braid. It's a little more expensive, but I use my fielder's mitt as a catch fence. Still got it. Going back to the old baseball days, huh, Pat? So yeah, I'm kind of caught up. I don't know if there's any more questions out there. It's 9:23. I've been trying to keep these things to 90 minutes, so we've got a few minutes left. Just to wrap up this weekend racing, I still have some tuning to do. If anybody has any recommendations, let me know. But I think I'm settled on these two, going in with these two cars prepped and ready to race. And these two as my backups to the backups, with some work at the track. So that is my plan. And I'm excited about getting out on the track that's not this track. I love racing on this track, but I really I'm looking forward to seeing the guys and doing some racing this weekend and just having fun. Now, the GT car, I think that I could race the Scale Auto car. Butch told me that it would qualify. because it's basically GT LMP. And so this car, I might try to finish tuning, but it's not going to be painted or anything. And so I really, this car is probably going to go and see how it runs on the wood track. I've done some laps with it. It's not bad. For the GT cars, and then I may pick up a car, a GT style car from Cincy Slots before I go on Saturday. So we'll see. We will see. So good stuff. Grandson of Man, I've been curious about the Slot Invasion Carrera rear axle kit. Downside is they are $25 a pop. Chris, they do come with urethane tires, not silicones. One thing you should know about that kit, but when you start pricing it out, it's not Oscar's pricing is good, but it is $25. But it's a nice upgrade for the Carrera car. It really is. All of his hop-up kits, even the 124 scale hop-up kit, is great. It really makes an impact on that car. Yeah, I think that's what I settled on. I think I'll be good. Splots has a tire size list PDF on their website. I'd share it here, but I don't know how. Yeah, Daniel, it's because it doesn't allow links in the chat. So when it comes to tire sizes, that was the question. I think you really, if you go to Slot Car Corner, if you go to Super Tires website, depending on what type of tires you're looking for, they have sizing charts, and a lot of them have sizing charts with types of cars. So it'll say NSR GT40, NSR P68, SRC, whatever the model is. The Slot Car Corner's sizing chart is really good for quick slicks. Super Tires, if you go to their website, they have a great chart for all of their silicone tires. And then there are some other brands out there that if you just go to their websites, they have size charts. And if you have a set of calipers and can measure your wheel size, then it's really easy to find some tires to fit that may not be specific to the brand or your car, but that are made for, just standard wheels. So there's information out there on tire size. Yep, Curvy. I think they're great kits as well. Yep, Steve. Great job, Steve. Slot Car Corner has all the sizing you need. Yes, full line of cross-referencing. I'll tell you what. I can post a link. Let me see. Do I have Slot Car Corner up? What do you know? Tires by brand. Here you go. Tire fitment summary by brand model. Here we go. I don't have a whole lot of. That should get you there. That is the fitment guide for quick slicks from Slot Car Corner. Let's see. Supertires.com has a fitment chart. Yep. Let me bring that up since Super Tire is a great friend of the channel. We really like their silicone tires. It's what everybody races. And this is the 1/32 scale page. So Daryl, thanks. I'll put that in here. There's the Super Tires if you're looking for great silicone tires, quick slicks. And then I think there's a fitment guide for Paul Gage out there too. Let me look and see if I can find it. Paul Gage. There we go. Paul Gage urethanes. This will help you with. Yes, calipers are your friend, John, for sure. So this will help you with Paul Gauge urethanes. Yeah, Pat, it's very handy. John is right. Calipers are your friend, and you can get a cheap set of calipers that work great at Harbor Freight. Yeah, Tom, no worries, man. Happy to help. That's why we're all here. That's why we all show up on Tuesday nights. Yeah, what else? Oh, one last thing before I close out. One, thanks, guys. Yeah, we'll be giving away some coffee. Put coffee in the comment, and I will pick. I actually have to pick two because time got away from me last week, and we did not have a winner. So we'll have two winners of coffee this week. So I'll reach out to you and get an address and get coffee sent out. But make sure you put coffee in the chat if you are interested in coffee. Monty, love the soldering iron cartoon. Funny, I heard cartoon. I didn't see that. I missed out on that one. But something cool really happened. I woke up this morning and I got a message from Pioneer. Pioneer are makers of these really cool cars. And Dave from Slot R has got a great video this week of his Legends car. But Pioneer, I had taken a picture of our Legends cars on my track months and months ago and posted it on my Instagram account. And about a month ago, Pioneer reached out to me and said, hey, we love your picture. Can we use it in our social media? I'm like, have at it, man. That would be awesome. Well, I woke up to a comment this morning on Instagram and said, hey, we used your picture as our Twitter, X now, our Twitter cover photo. And so if you go out to Pioneer, go give them a follow. They should have way more followers than they did. These cars are really sweet. All of their cars are great. I would really like to have one of their Camaros and one of their Mustangs. But a few more Legends cars probably wouldn't be too bad either. That new John Player Special is awesome. But do me a favor, guys. If you are on Twitter or on Instagram, go out and follow Pioneer Slot Cars on either or both of those for me. But if you check out Twitter, they are using my picture that I posted on Instagram months ago for their cover page, and I thought that was really cool. One, thank you, Pioneer, for reaching out to me and asking for permission. It doesn't happen a whole lot with the internet anymore, so gracious, really appreciate that. Thanks for using it. And two, go out and give them a follow. It would be great if they wake up tomorrow morning and have 30 or 40 new followers that they didn't have on Instagram and Twitter, and it would be because of this awesome community. So, guys, if you're not following them, go out and do me a favor. Go do that. But I'm thankful for your subscription to my channel. I love the chat tonight. This has been fantastic. Definitely giving away some coffee. Thanks to my buddy Trent at Rost Coffee. Go to roast.com, roastcoffee.com. Use 2 lines. You get 25% off your first purchase, and you can get a discount off of coffee subscription. Trent's done a great job of giving away coffee. I'm like, you're not getting anything out of this. I'm getting all kinds of stuff out of it because I'm giving coffee away every week. And he's like, dude, I just love to give away coffee, and I love your people. They're great. I appreciate how passionate they are about slot cars and that slot car community, because that's what I am about my community of coffee. And he's just super impressed with that. So Trent, thank you. Guys, thank you for your support. And we'll give a couple bags away. Yes, the Brazil coffee is definitely great. Rob, thanks, man. I appreciate that. But I hope Pioneer wake up and have a bunch of new followers that they didn't have before they. Jules Burley is the owner of Pioneer. He's stand-up cat. Good to hear, John. Yeah, I thought it was great that they reached out to me. I was pretty excited. I'm like, DNA just did a video on Legends cars. Dave from Slot R is doing videos on like a 2-part video on a Legends car, and they chose my picture to use as their Instagram cover page. That was pretty exciting. I'm happy about that. That's fun. So guys, thanks. I appreciate you guys. This has been good. If I missed any questions, hit me up offline, send me a message, put a comment in this video. And will the Omni slot box do 4-lane digital? Pat. Yes, but you need to reach out. Hang on, will it do 4-lane digital? That's a good question. Jim Cunningham could answer that. Jim is great about responding. So if you send him an email, he would be able to tell you that. But I know that you can do a 4-lane Omni slot box. But I would say that it would be 4 lanes of digital, and then flip the switch, 4 lanes of analog. But don't quote me on that. Go straight to Jim. He's the man when it comes to the Omni slot box. So, good night, all guys. This has been great. Thanks. I've been asked and answered, but do you like the wireless controllers? Caveman, I like wireless controllers. They're fun. It makes it nice when you have a small group of people and you need to race and marshal at the same time. But if you can find them, Frankenslot makes the best wireless controller. These are fantastic. Trigger style wireless, works with Carrera digital. They're great. Rob, thanks, man. Appreciate it. I can't wait till we get to race again. Hope to see you soon at Cincy Slots. Mr. Cunningham stated that he was working on it. Okay. Thanks, John. I know that it would do 4 lanes of analog, 2 lanes digital, but I wasn't sure if it would do 4 lanes of digital. So, yeah. Yep. Appreciate it. Guys, thanks. Go have some fun racing. Keep it in the slot. Tagline, tagline, tagline. Roast coffee. Guys, it's been great. Enjoy. Wish me luck on Saturday. Steve will probably kick my butt.